What's your name?
Kritavi.
Kritavi.
Yes.
And how long have you been around Dorje, Dribu, and Bapu?
Since later 1999.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You are also a musician.
Yes.
How so?
I play the saxophone and flute, and so Rakalam and I had common interests around the music, and then he turned me on to Tisziji music and made a very big, strong impression on me, and that led to coming and meeting him, and
So before you met him, were you at all spiritually inclined?
Oh yes. I mean, well, it's taken a lot of different forms, but I suppose that has been in part of my life, all my life, and so I could say that for many years I was a spiritual seeker type. For many years I wasn't. I was probably more of a typical Bay Area hedonistic type, but they seem to overlap sometimes, especially there. Practiced Buddhism for a number of years in the Bay Area, and but I can say that when I met Bapu, or shortly thereafter, whatever spiritual seeking I was doing or had in me collapsed and died, and there was no more seeking, and hasn't been, in the sense that there's nowhere else to go, nobody else I need to talk to, or it's complete right here. If I never talk to another person about anything spiritual, I'm fine, or read another word, all directly from dealing with Bapu.
Did you have spiritual teachers or gurus or anybody before this?
I checked out all kinds of stuff going back to when I was a teenager, like when I was young. Ram Dass was a popular teacher, and I went to see him, and people like that, and I went to see Yogi Bhajan and the Dalai Lama and all these people, who would all come through San Francisco, where I lived most of my adult life, and checked out all these things, and various Buddhist teachers, and so yeah, there were a lot of teachers I've been exposed to, either in person or reading, so.
And could you articulate maybe some of the difference that you perceive between your experience of Bapu and anybody maybe in a more public place?
Sure. Well, I mean, there may be other masters among the people I met, other spiritual masters, almost certainly, but my experience of them was not, let's say, qualitatively that of dealing directly with a master and having that kind of experience and that kind of intelligence, directly applied to your own condition. So that certainly made meeting Bapu, more immediate and more gratifying. But beyond that, just in terms of pure intelligence and wisdom, I think he has more to say to me, I'll just put it that way, than other people whose wisdom and insights I've appreciated and have been useful in, let's say, good training or preliminary conditions. But meeting Bapu and kind of being exposed to his endless, free, spontaneous creativity from some source entirely beyond is... it's much more dramatic and pronounced and more life-affecting, than just hearing merely, oh, that's interesting, or that's wise or unique or something. With Bapu, it really cut much deeper and had more impact. So.
Yeah. And as a musician, getting to hear his music, can you speak to the similarities between his teachings and his presence and his living and the music that he plays?
Yeah, I would say not only is there, certainly the words and the music are intimately or uniquely connected, and I would go beyond that to say even the silence, because sitting with Bapu in silence is akin to sitting with him when he's in discourse, or sitting with him when he's playing. So they all seem to have a similar resonance to them. His music, you know, it's a direct channel to the same kind of things that he's able to articulate in words. And for some people, I think that's a more immediate and more necessary thing to expose themselves to. You know, they connect directly with it, where sometimes the words maybe are not as accessible. Other people, maybe the opposite is true, but I think people who stay around him and you know, open themselves to what he's doing recognize most of the time that the music and the words are interrelated and come from that same source and come for the same reasons from that same source, which is to serve others. You know.
Very good. How has being around Bapu affected your practice?
Well, you know, that's the source of my practice. That is the practice for me, is keeping Bapu in my heart, you know, recognizing in all the ways I can how his openness, his compassion for me, as well as for, you know, other people has, but for me it has affected my life and changed things dramatically and healed me in all kinds of ways, from all kinds of conditions and circumstances and pains and past karma and past memories and all kinds of crap, you know, and lighten my load. I like to say that, you know, like in the past people could push my buttons. Now, if you push those buttons, there's nothing connected to them. They don't do anything. They're just buttons. Like, nothing's going to happen because all the wiring has been ripped out for all those things that would trigger anger, fear, insecurity, you know, paranoia, and whatever conditions. He's just kind of torn all that out. You don't need this shit. Throw it out. Boom. And so kind of lighten my burden as a result. You know.
And do you feel like that's been done kind of through the word, or maybe just more directly through contact, regardless of what he says?
Well, it's both. I mean, the word, I spent, you know, several years really immersed in the words and really involving myself. I remember looking at, like, there's a 14-line sentence there. That can't be a real sentence. I'm going to sit there and parse that motherfucker out until I find what, and I'd go through it for, you know, 20 minutes. Like, boy, that's a perfect 14-line sentence expressing a unique thought and condition that I've never heard before. And as I've written about for my own writings for Bapu, you know, my initial reaction to his writings was just shock, because the profound intelligence and originality of what he was saying reached me so deeply. It's like I'm a worldly person. I've been exposed to many ideas, many things, but here's something that's so new to me and so powerful that I was just stunned by it. Same way, you know, the music works for people.
And have you spent similar time or similar focus with the music and come to any?
Oh yeah, well, I've immersed myself in hearing the music and gone to many of the live performances, and put one on in Boston a few years ago, sponsored one, and you know, they have a profound impact. I mean, it's hard to put in words because it's not a verbal experience, but you know, it's certainly more than the average, even the average great musical experience, because it's not really music at a certain point. It goes beyond music and outside of music, and you suddenly realize this is something else altogether going on here, you know. It's not a concert in the normal way, you know.
Do you have anything else that you want to say about being here or Bapu or your experience or your healing?
Well, I will say that, you know, having given it many years of thought and consideration and openness, the experience continues to develop, and it's almost impossible to try to articulate the profundity of the nature of his being, because it's not merely a wise or intelligent person, although he is certainly a wise and intelligent person. It's not merely a compassionate and caring person, although he is certainly that. You really, as you spend time with him, start to realize just how far and how deep this goes and how profound as a master he is. In another time and under other circumstances, you know, that chair he sits in the living room would be a throne, and there'd be thousands of devotees, and almost like some of the Buddhist things where they meet in heaven and there's thousands of spirits and beings and all that. That's a feeling I have with Bapu, is, you know, this is like that center figure whose wisdom, I mean, I think of all the greatest spiritual teachers I've studied and all I've gotten from him, and I think, man, this guy is just, it's no repetition of anything that's come before. To me, he represents the absolute pinnacle of human condition and existence. I mean, he has advanced the species in a sense. I don't really like to think of it in that way because it's not an evolutionary thing per se, but nonetheless, he is in human form the most the most beyond human maybe to ever have been on the planet. I don't know, you know, and it's not about comparisons, but there's something wholly profound and original and you know, meaningful about what he does and how he does it. That really is, I've never found anything like it anywhere. You know. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You.